Talk off, the tariffs seem to be working with the October trade deficit at the lowest level since 2009. I was so happy and excited when I saw this. The October trade deficit was only $29.4 billion. I remember it being sometimes triple digits, over 100 billion, which is far better than the expected deficit of $58.4 billion. Not only was it almost half the expected amount, but it was also the lowest deficit going back 16 years. 2009. The low trade deficit was due to imports falling to $331.4 billion, but the other thing was exports also increased to $302 billion.
And when you look at the exports, I mean, there was some accounting essentially that kind of boosted that number. Exports did benefit from the high price of gold, silver, and other metals, and it's estimated that increased exports by about $10 billion during October. The big benefit on the reduction of imports, well, that came from pharmaceuticals dropping sharply, probably because in late September, the administration threatened 100% tariffs on overseas pharmaceuticals, and the drug makers were apparently scrambling on what to do and trying to minimize the impact going forward. Obviously, doubling the cost on that would be maybe not the most ideal business situation.
No. And I've racked my brain trying to figure out, how do the metals, gold and silver, I guess maybe they're bought from us, but how did it increase by $10 billion? Is that going to happen again every time that gold and silver go up? That's my only thought was that because we
Silver's
export...
been crazy,
Yeah.
and silver is actually used in industrial purposes. So I'd be curious if there was more of a breakdown between silver and gold, and really where that 10 billion came from. If I had to hypothesize, I'd almost lean more that it was silver because there's more of a use case. And of course, silver's price, it's been...
Oh, it's about 90.
Like, it's been like crypto. It's just
Yeah.
been up and down and all over the place. And, I don't think, as you said, I don't think that's going to be there every single month, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is one thing that may have artificially lifted that trade deficit and made the numbers look a little bit better than anticipated.
And actually, because the trade deficit comes out like about 2 months later, this is October. I think in November, silver was still rising. I mean, here it is, January still rising. So we could get a little push on that for a couple months to come yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, the Supreme Court will not make the decision on whether the tariffs are legal or not just because, well, they seem to be working. They will determine if the use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose tariffs is legal or not. Now, my hope is that they do agree with it, and if not, hopefully the administration can come up with some other way of keeping the tariffs intact, as they seem to be working very well. We like that low trade deficit.
Yeah, I mean, a low trade deficit is beneficial to GDP because obviously you look at your net import-export number, and the better that trade balance is, it helps with GDP's numbers. And I mean, you think about it as well conceptually. Obviously, if you're producing more and shipping it out and then importing less, that should help with the jobs picture because it gives people more work to do. So, I mean, there's going to be positive to it. I do believe, of course, that the trade is, still important to have a good relationship with other countries and so forth. I just think it got so out of whack for so many years.
Yeah, and the thing I've never liked about the deficit, it got so large that we're sending this money out to other countries, getting nothing back but consumable goods, which are gone pretty quick. And I remember back in economics, the guns and the butter rule, where if you're good at making guns, you make guns, you're good at making butter, you make butter, and you have a trade. What happened was we were buying so much more from everybody else, and they weren't buying our products. We were just sending money overseas to all these countries, and eventually you run into where like, hey, we got nothing left. That's why we got such a big debt deficit.
Yeah, and the thing that I am going to be curious on going forward, I mean, you brought up that big kind of differential in the trade deficit compared to what we had seen in the past. I mean, obviously these tariffs were enacted early last year, in April is kind of when the announcement took place. And if you recall, there was a huge trade deficit for the first couple of months because companies were trying to front load that. How much more, we've talked about this for months, it seems like, but how much more inventory can they really be working through? I think we're going to finally start to get maybe more normalized trade data, maybe in March, April, and then I think we'll really see where things are at because by then I'd have to assume the companies would have burned through that inventory that was so heavily front-loaded. And the trade deficit that you pointed out, I don't know if that's going to be a bottom or maybe a more normalized level, but there will be a point where I don't think the trade deficit is going to get better because, again, then companies will need to start buying more overseas once they burn through that inventory.
Yeah, and I doubt we'd have a trade surplus. I mean, who knows? I suppose that could happen, but it's just I remember seeing, a couple of years ago, looking at the deficit. Gosh, we spent $70 billion in 1 month, different country. Like, wow, this is just crazy. I mean, it's not a good thing. So I'm happy to see we seem to be going the right direction. I hope to stay in that course, but we'll watch it for people month by month, see what happens.